Givers in Light.
Welcome to Feet on Repeat, and we are going to do an album review here. My name is Baram C. Lansay, and the album we are reviewing today is an album by the band Givers in Light is the album name. And the Givers are a 5-piece indie pop group from Lafayette, Louisiana, not to be confused with Lafayette in Indiana, two different places. They have a very heavily world-influenced sound, so very kind of foreign to pull some similar bands. Vampire Weekend has a similar sound. Even Devotchka has a similar sound. And as far as a really heavy influence I'm hearing on this album, Paul Simon's Graceland is another album that has a similar sound. And what is great about this album here is that it's really, really, really upbeat. And it has a lot of energy. It's very grand arrangement. A lot of offbeat guitar riff. Lots of good vocal harmonies. A lot of guitar harmonies as well, which is really cool. And they have two lead vocalists, a female and a male. And I'm a sucker for that sort of dynamic. And as far as the progression of the tracks are always constantly changing, always evolving or devolving into new and different sounds, but they kind of maintain the same strain as far as, there is a distinct start and finish to each track. But it doesn't necessarily stay the same. It switches up quite a bit. I do have some qualms with this album though. First and foremost, the thing that really got to me is for a lot of the breakdowns, they use these electronic noises, these blips and beeps, and it doesn't really mesh with the whole natural world sounds that are with the rest of the album. You have these great guitar tones, and then you have these heavy foot stomping drum beats, and then you have these little blips and bloops just coming out of nowhere, and they don't really fit with the rest of the music. And that's one thing that kind of detracted from this album for me. The male vocalist is nowhere near the level of the female vocalist. Female has a fantastic voice. I mean, absolutely amazing. And the male, not to say that he doesn't have a great voice, he just kind of pales in comparison to the duets that they do. It also seems that the band as a whole, and as far as the production, they don't quite have a grasp on pop writing yet, though. The album is kind of distinctly missing choruses that really grab your attention. There are no hooks in this. There's nothing that really grabs you. It's more of the atmosphere that grabs you, yet this is an indie pop album. I compared it to Graceland earlier by Paul Simon. The reason why that album is so fantastic is you have this great atmosphere, but then you have Paul Simon singing with his fantastic lyrics and catchy choruses. The way the album is mixed, the vocals kind of take a back seat to everything else, and it's unfortunate because it kind of holds the album back a little bit in a certain sense. What that kind of results in is that the album can kind of drift past you or sneak past you. It takes some really acute listening to pick up and enjoy the subtleties of the album. If it had been mixed a little bit better, this album would have been much more in your face, but in a good way. It would have grabbed you and pulled you out on the dance floor. And despite not being mixed properly, in my opinion, the rest of it really makes up for it tenfold. And the last two tracks, Go Out All Night and Words, those two tracks really kind of were the deciding factor that this was a great album. The rest of the album's kind of all along the same strain of being kind of upbeat, jolly, a fun album, and then those last two tracks kind of showed a emotional variation from the rest. They did a little bit slower. They were more of kind of like a pop ballad, and it really kind of gave the album some diversity. They can take their music this far. They have this sort of ability to switch it up. Final thoughts on the album: excellent upbeat album. If you enjoy Paul Simon's Graceland, you should check this out. Though I will say it is nowhere near as good as that album, still a very solid listen. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 3.5 out of 5, which is great. This was Baram C. Lance on Feet Repeat. Let me know what you think of the album, and let me know what you would like me to review next. Have a good night.